The emergency meeting room deep under Earth's capital city had not been used for 20 years. Now it was full of the most important people in human space. Admiral Soman sat at the head of a long table, looking at faces she had not seen together since the last major crisis. "Let me make sure I understand this correctly," said Director Kyung-hun from Strategic Intelligence. "We received a message from aliens asking for military help against other aliens." "That's correct," Admiral Soman replied. "The message came from a species called the Volani. They're under attack by something called the Hegemony." General Taehyun, head of the Solar Defense Army, leaned forward. "What do we know about this hegemony?" "Our intelligence teams have been working all night," Kyung-hun said, opening a thick folder. "We intercepted some of their radio signals. The hegemony appears to be a large empire that controls around 200 star systems." 200? General Taehyun looked surprised. "That's huge. It gets worse. They've been expanding for over 300 years. Every time they find a new species, they either make them into slaves or kill them completely." Dr. Yuna, Earth's top expert on alien life, spoke up. "I've been studying the biological data we captured from their transmissions. Most aliens seem to come from worlds that are much easier to live on than Earth." "What do you mean?" Admiral Soman asked. "Lower gravity, thinner air, more stable weather. Their bodies are adapted for comfort, not survival. We think most alien species have never had to fight for their lives the way humans have." Everyone in the room was quiet. They were all thinking the same thing. "Are you saying we might be stronger than them?" General Taehyun asked. "Physically, almost certainly, but they have advanced technology and much larger numbers. The question is whether our natural advantages can make up for their technological ones." Admiral Soman stood up and walked to a large screen on the wall. With the push of a button, it showed a map of human space. Red dots marked the locations of secret military bases. "For 3 centuries, we've been preparing for this day. We've built fleets and weapons in hidden locations throughout our territory. We've studied every possible way that first contact might happen. But not this way." Director Kyung-hun pointed out. "No, not this way. We always assumed that if we met aliens, we would be the ones asking for help. We never thought they would ask us to fight their wars." General Taehyun looked at the map. "How many ships do we have?" 2,000 combat vessels ranging from fighters to battleships, all hidden already. "And crews for all of them?" "We've been training crews in secret for decades. Every person who knows about the hidden fleet has sworn to keep the secret." "Doctor," Yuna raised her hand. "Before we decide to go to war, shouldn't we try to learn more about the situation?" Admiral Soman nodded. "That's exactly what I'm thinking. But we also need to be ready to act quickly. According to the Volani message, their people are dying right now." The discussion continued for hours. They talked about the risks of getting involved in an alien war. They talked about the dangers of revealing human military strength to the galaxy. Most importantly, they talked about what it meant to be human. "The way I see it," said General Taehyun, "we have 2 choices. We can stay hidden and let the Volani die, or we can help them and show the galaxy that humans exist." "There's a third choice," Director Kyung-hun said. "We could help them secretly, without revealing who we are. But that wouldn't stop the hegemony from attacking other species in the future," Dr. Yuna pointed out. Admiral Soman looked around the table at each person. These were the people who would decide humanity's future in the galaxy. "I've made my decision," she said. "We're going to help the Volani, but we're going to do it the human way." "What does that mean?" asked Dr. Yuna. "We're going to show the galaxy what happens when you attack innocent people. We're going to make the hegemony regret ever threatening anyone." General Taehyun smiled. "I like the sound of that." Admiral Soman pressed a button on her desk. Across human space, secret bases received the activation code they had been waiting for decades to hear. Lieutenant Commander Hana was sleeping in her quarters aboard the stealth cruiser Silent Storm when the alarm woke her up. At first, she thought, it was just another drill. The crew of the Silent Storm practiced combat exercises every week, but when she saw the code on her communication screen, she knew this was real. "All hands to battle stations," she announced over the ship's speakers. "This is not a drill. Repeat, this is not a drill." The silent storm had been hiding in an asteroid field for 5 years, waiting for orders. Hana and her crew had trained, constantly, but they had never fired their weapons in real combat. Around her ship, dozens of other vessels were receiving the same orders. Ships that had been disguised as mining platforms suddenly revealed weapon systems. Space stations that looked like research facilities opened launch bays full of fighters. The largest secret base was hidden inside a moon in the outer solar system. Commander Jisoo had been running the base for 10 years, making sure that thousands of ships and millions of people stayed hidden from the rest of humanity. "Open all launch bays," she ordered. "Begin fleet formation sequence." Outside the moon, space filled with human warships. Destroyers, cruisers, battleships, and carriers emerged from hidden docks. Fighter squadrons formed up in perfect formations. Captain Sunwoo watched from the bridge of his battleship as the hidden fleet assembled. He had been waiting his entire career for this moment. "It's beautiful," said his second-in-command. "It's terrifying," Sunwoo replied. "The galaxy has no idea what's coming." Back on Earth, Admiral Summon received reports from every secret base. The hidden fleet was ready for action. 300 years of preparation were about to be tested. "Send a message to the Volani," she ordered. "Tell them that Admiral Somin of the Human Solar Defense Fleet has received their distress call. Tell them help is coming." The message traveled through space at the speed of light. It would take days to reach the Volani, but Admiral Somin hoped they would be able to hold out until human ships arrived. Dr. Mireille on Aegis Prime Station worked to translate the message into Volani language. When she was finished, she looked at Captain Do-hyun. "This message is going to change everything," she said. "I know," Do-hyun replied. "Are you ready?" "I don't think anyone can be ready for this." The message was sent. For the first time in galactic history, humans had officially announced their existence to alien species. But the hegemony was also listening to radio signals. Deep in their territory, intelligence officers detected the human transmission. They didn't understand the language, but they could tell it was from a species they had never heard of before. High Commander Tralek received the report in his command center on the hegemony capital world. "A new species?" he asked his intelligence chief. "Yes, sir. They appear to be responding to the Volani distress calls." "Where are they located?" "Unknown, sir. The signal seems to come from outside our territory." Tralek looked at a map of the galaxy. The hegemony controlled a large section of space, but there were many areas they had never explored. "Send scout ships to investigate. I want to know everything about these humans." "Yes, sir." Tralek wasn't worried. In 300 years, the hegemony had conquered every species they had encountered. These humans would be no different. Had no way of knowing that he had just made the biggest mistake in galactic history. In space, human ships were already moving toward Volani territory. The fastest ships would arrive in less than a week. They carried weapons and technology that no alien species had ever seen. More importantly, they carried human soldiers and officers who had been trained in a type of warfare that was completely unknown in the galaxy. The hegemony was about to learn why Earth was called a death world, and they were about to discover what happened when you threatened species that humans had decided to protect. The sleeping giant was fully awake now, and it was very, very angry. Jinwoo stared at his computer screen in the quiet control room of Aegis Prime Station. The numbers on the display kept changing, but something was wrong. For 3 years, he had been listening to space signals as his job. Most days were boring. Space was mostly silent, but today was different. A weak signal came from somewhere far away. It was not like anything Jinwoo had heard before. The signal repeated every 47 minutes. Each time it played, it got a little weaker. Jinwoo called his boss, Captain Do-hyun. "Sir, you need to hear this." Do-hyun walked over to Jinwoo's station. He was a tall man with gray hair and tired eyes. Running a deep space station was not easy work. Most of the time, nothing happened out here at the edge of human space. "What is it?" Do-hyun asked. "Listen." Jinwoo played the signal through the speakers. Strange sounds filled the room. They were not like human speech. The sounds went up and down in patterns that hurt to hear. But underneath the alien noise, something else was there. Fear, desperation, pain. How long has this been going on? Do-hyun asked. 3 days. The signal is getting weaker. Whatever is sending it is running out of power. Do-hyun felt cold. In all his years in space, he had never heard an alien signal. Earth had been alone for so long that many people thought humans were the only smart life in the universe. Get Dr. Mirai up here right now, Do-hyun ordered. Dr. Mirai was the station's language expert. She studied how different groups of people talked to each other. If anyone could understand alien speech, it would be her. Mirai arrived 10 minutes later. She was a small woman with quick hands and bright eyes. When she heard the alien signal, her face changed. "This is incredible," she whispered. "Play it again." For the next 3 days, Mirai worked without stopping. She barely ate or slept. The alien signal played over and over in her lab while she tried to break the code. Other people on the station started to worry. News of the alien signal spread quickly through the crew. Some people were excited, others were scared. Everyone had questions that no one could answer. On the third night, Mirai burst into Do-hyun's office. "I did it," she said, breathing hard. "I know what they're saying." Do-hyun looked up from his reports. "Tell me." Mirai sat down and opened her computer. "They call themselves the Volani. They're traders who travel between worlds. Their home planet is under attack." "Attack? By who?" "Something called the Hegemony. From what I can understand, the Hegemony is like an empire. They take over worlds and make slaves of the people living there." Do-hyun felt sick. "How bad is it?" "Bad. The Volani are losing. Their message says most of their people are dead or captured. The ones still free are hiding in spaceships, running from the Hegemony. Why are they sending signals into empty space?" Mirai looked at her notes. "This is the strange part. They heard stories about a species called humans. They think humans might be strong enough to help them fight the Hegemony. But how do they know about us? We've never made contact with aliens. I don't think they really know about us. The message sounds desperate. They're sending signals in every direction, hoping someone will hear them. Most aliens think humans are just stories." Do-hyun stared out the window at the stars. Somewhere out there, people were dying while asking for help from humans they weren't even sure existed. What else does the message say? They're asking for help. They say the Hegemony has been taking over worlds for hundreds of years. No one has ever been able to stop them. The Volani think humans might be different. Different? How? The message mentions something about humans coming from a death world. I think they mean Earth is more dangerous than most planets. Do-hyun thought about this. Earth was a hard place to live compared to what he had read in science books about other possible worlds. Strong gravity, violent weather, dangerous animals, diseases. Maybe humans were tougher than aliens because Earth was tougher than alien worlds. Can you send a message back to them? I think so. But sir, this is bigger than our station. We need to tell Earth about this. Do-hyun nodded. You're right. But first, can you tell if they're telling the truth? This could be a trap. Mirai shook her head. I've been studying the signal for days. The fear in their voices is real. The way their language breaks down when they talk about the Hegemony shows real trauma. These people are not lying. Do-hyun made his decision. Send the message to Earth Command immediately. Full priority. Then prepare a response to the Volani. What should I tell them? Tell them we received their message. Tell them help might be coming. Mirai worked through the night to translate a human response into Volani language. The message was simple, but important. This is the human station, Aegis Prime. We heard your call for help. We are sending your message to our leaders. Stay alive. We will try to help. When the message was ready, Do-hyun and Mirai stood together in the communication room. Jinwoo was there too, along with other senior staff members. This changes everything, Do-hyun said quietly. We're not alone anymore. Are we ready for this? Asked Commander Hyejin, the station's chief engineer. I don't know, Do-hyun admitted. But those people asked for our help. If we can save them, we have to try. Mirai pressed the button to send the message. Radio waves carrying human words translated into alien language shot out into space, racing toward a desperate species light years away. At the same time, another message traveled toward Earth. This message would wake up the most powerful military leaders on the planet. It would start meetings in secret rooms and activate plans that had been waiting for decades. The message to Earth was simple, but world-changing. First contact confirmed. Alien species under attack. They know about humans and are asking for military help. Situation critical. Awaiting orders. Back on Earth, alarms started ringing in the deep underground bunkers where the Unified Defense Council met. Admiral Soman was woken up in the middle of the night by a phone call that would change human history. "What do you mean, aliens?" she asked the caller. "Real aliens, Admiral. They sent us a distress call. They're being attacked by something called the Hegemony, and they're asking humans for help." Admiral Soman sat up in her bed. For 50 years, she had trained for the day when humans might meet aliens. She had studied battle plans and prepared for every possible situation, except this one. How long until the council can meet? Everyone will be here in 2 hours. Good. And activate the sleeping giant protocol. Are you sure, Admiral? Admiral Soman looked out her window at the peaceful Earth night sky. Soon that peace might be gone forever. Yes. If aliens are calling for help, they're going to get it. Wake up the fleet. Across human space, secret messages started moving between hidden bases and disguised ships. Humanity had been preparing for contact with aliens for centuries. They had built weapons and ships in secret, keeping them hidden from the galaxy. Now it was time to show the universe what humans could do. The sleeping giant was beginning to wake up. On Aegis Prime Station, Jinwoo monitored the radio frequencies, waiting for any response from the Volani or from Earth. The alien signal kept repeating, but it was getting weaker. "How much time do they have?" Doyun asked. "The signal will die completely in maybe 2 days," Jinwoo answered. "Then we better hope our message reaches them in time." But even as they waited, none of the humans on Aegis Prime could imagine what was about to happen. They had just sent the first message in what would become the most important war in galactic history, and humans were going to win it. Admiral Soman stood on the bridge of her flagship, the Indomitable, and watched the stars change as the ship dropped out of faster-than-light travel. They had reached the edge of Volani space after 5 days of hard travel. "Admiral, we're receiving multiple signals," reported Communications Officer Wusung. "Some of them match the Volani language patterns we studied. Put them on speakers." The bridge filled with alien voices. Most sounded frightened and confused. One voice was clearer than the others, speaking in broken but understandable human language. "Human ships. This is Commander Kalani Vor of the Volani Free Fleet. Are you really here to help us?" Admiral Soman smiled. The Volani had been working hard to learn human language since receiving their first message. "This is Admiral Soman." "Yes, we're here to help. Can you meet us for face-to-face talks?" "Yes, Admiral, but be careful. Hegemony patrol ships are everywhere." 2 hours later, Admiral Soman, Dr. Mirai, and a small team took a shuttle to a Volani ship called the Last Hope. It was Admiral Soman's first time seeing aliens in person. Commander Kalani Vor was waiting in the docking bay. She was tall and thin, with blue-gray skin and large eyes that looked sad and tired. When she saw the humans, she made a gesture that Dr. Mirai recognized as a greeting. "Welcome, Admiral Soman," Kalani said in careful human language. "I apologize for my poor speaking. We learned your language quickly from radio signals." "You speak very well," Admiral Soman replied. "Dr. Mirai here has been learning your language too." The meeting took place in a small room on the Volani ship. Kalani explained the situation while Dr. Mirai translated the parts that were too difficult for direct communication. "The Hegemony attacked our homeworld 6 months ago," Kalani said. "They came with hundreds of ships. Our defense forces were destroyed in hours." "How many of your people escaped?" Admiral Soman asked. "Maybe 50,000. There were 20 million on our world before the attack. Admiral Soman felt anger building inside her. The hegemony had killed most of an entire species just to take their planet. What do they want with your world? Resources. The hegemony takes everything useful from the planets they conquer. They use the surviving people as slaves to work in mines and factories. Combat engineer Hyejin, who had come with Admiral Soman's team, asked about Volani technology. What she learned surprised her. Admiral, their ships are very advanced for space travel, but their weapons are incredibly weak compared to ours. What do you mean? Their main battle cannon has about the same power as our smallest fighter weapons, and they don't have any armor worth mentioning. Admiral Soman was confused. How does the hegemony conquer anyone with such weak technology? Kalani overheard the question. The hegemony doesn't have much better technology than us. They win because they have so many ships and soldiers. They can lose 10 ships for every one of ours and still win. Strategic Officer Jisoo studied the battle reports that Kalani provided. Admiral, I think I understand now. Galactic warfare is completely different from human warfare. How so? They fight like it's a formal game with rules. Ships line up in formations and shoot at each other until one side runs out of ships. There's no deception, no surprise attacks, no psychological warfare. No wonder the hegemony keeps winning, Admiral Soman said. They just build more ships than anyone else. The meeting was interrupted when alarms started ringing throughout. The Volani ship, hegemony patrol fleet approaching, Kalani announced. 3 ships, we must run. How fast are they? Admiral Soman asked. Fast enough to catch us. Admiral Soman spoke into her radio. Captain Donghyun, are you listening? Captain Donghyun commanded the destroyer Thunderstrike, one of the smaller ships in Admiral Soman's fleet. Yes, Admiral. 3 hegemony ships are approaching. I want you to engage them. Understood. What are my orders? Capture one if possible. Destroy the others. Captain Donghyun had been waiting his entire career for this moment. The Thunderstrike was a small ship, but it carried weapons and technology that were completely unknown to galactic civilization. All hands to battle stations, he announced. We're about to show the galaxy how humans fight. The 3 hegemony ships approached in a standard triangle formation, exactly like the battle. Manual said they should. Captain Donghyun watched them on his main screen. They're not even trying to hide, said his weapons officer, Lieutenant Jinwoo. Why would they? They probably think we're just another weak alien species. The hegemony ships sent a message in their own language. Dr. Mirai, listening from the Volani ship, translated it for everyone. They're demanding that all ships surrender immediately or be destroyed. Captain Donghyun smiled. Send them a message back. Tell them this. Human ships do not surrender. The hegemony commander apparently didn't understand the message because the 3 ships continued their approach in the same predictable formation. Activate stealth systems, Captain Donghyun ordered. The Thunderstrike vanished from all sensors. To the hegemony ships, it looked like the human destroyer had simply disappeared. Move to attack position. Prepare for hit and run tactics. The Thunderstrike moved in a pattern that no alien military had ever used before. Instead of staying in one place and trading shots, it moved constantly, appearing just long enough to fire its weapons before disappearing again. The first hegemony ship exploded before its crew understood what was happening. The second ship tried to turn and fight, but human weapons were far more powerful than anything they had faced before. The third ship tried to run, but human engines were also faster than alien technology. Disable their engines, but don't destroy the ship, Captain Donghyun ordered. The Admiral wants prisoners. Precise shots from the Thunderstrike stopped the third hegemony ship without killing the crew. Human soldiers in spacesuits boarded the alien vessel and captured the survivors. The entire battle lasted 12 minutes. Commander Kalani Vor watched the human attack from her ship's sensors, hardly believing what she was seeing. How is this possible? She asked Admiral Soman. Humans have been preparing for war our entire species' history, Admiral Soman replied. Earth is not a peaceful world. We learn to fight or die. The captured hegemony crew was brought to the Indomitable for questioning. The aliens were terrified. In 300 years of conquest, no hegemony ship had ever been captured by an enemy. The alien prisoners were tall and thin, like the Volani, but their skin was red, and they had sharp teeth. They looked like they were built to scare other species. "They're not answering our questions," reported Intelligence Officer Young-Ho after several hours of trying to communicate with the prisoners. "Keep trying," Admiral Soman ordered, "but also send the data we captured from their ship back to Earth. Our experts need to study their technology." Dr. Mireille was working on translating the hegemony language using the ship's computer systems. What she found made everyone angry. "Admiral, you need to see this. The hegemony computers contained records of hundreds of conquered worlds and billions of enslaved people. Species that had once been free were now nothing but workers in hegemony factories and mines." "How many species have they destroyed completely?" Admiral Soman asked. "At least 30, maybe more." Admiral Soman looked out at the stars. Somewhere out there, the hegemony was probably attacking another innocent species right now. "Send a message to Earth Command," she ordered. "Tell them we're not just rescuing the Volani anymore. We're going to war with the hegemony." "Admiral," Strategic Officer Jisoo said carefully, "the hegemony has thousands of ships spread across 200 star systems. We have 50 ships here. Then we better make sure every shot counts." Admiral Soman called a meeting of all her ship commanders. They gathered on the Indomitable to plan their next moves. "The hegemony thinks they just lost 3 ships to equipment. Failures or accidents," she explained. "They don't know we exist yet. That gives us an advantage." Captain Sunwoo raised his hand. "What kind of advantage? We can hit them before they know what's happening. We can choose our battles and avoid their main fleets." "Guerrilla warfare," said Commander Nari, who led the fleet's special operations teams. "Exactly. We're going to teach the hegemony that there are worse things in the galaxy than being conquered." The meeting continued for hours as the human commanders planned their attack strategy. They would use methods that no galactic military had ever seen before. When the meeting ended, Admiral Soman remained behind to talk with Commander Kalani Vor. "Your people are safe for now," she told the Volani commander. "But I want you to understand something. This war isn't just about saving the Volani anymore." "What do you mean?" "The hegemony has been killing innocent people for centuries. That ends now." Kalani stared at the human admiral. "You would fight an entire empire to save people you've never met?" "Yes." "Why?" Admiral Soman thought about how to explain human nature to an alien. "Because if we don't fight them now, they'll keep killing until there's no one left to save." As the human fleet prepared for war, news of the first battle was already spreading through hegemony space. 3 ships had vanished without a trace near Volani territory. High Commander Tralek was not yet worried, but he was curious. He ordered more patrol ships to investigate the disappearances. They would find the humans soon enough, and when they did, the real war would begin. High Commander Tralek stood in his command center on the hegemony capital world, staring at reports that made no sense. In the past month, 27 patrol ships had vanished without sending any distress signals. Entire supply convoys had disappeared. 3 small military bases had gone dark. "What are your theories?" he asked his intelligence chief. "Sir, we believe it's the work of the species that calls themselves humans. They appear to be more advanced than we first thought." "More advanced than us?" "In some ways, yes. Their ships are faster and more heavily armed than ours. But that's not the most concerning part." Tralek turned away from the tactical display. "What is?" "They don't fight like any species we've ever encountered. They use tactics that violate every principle of honorable warfare." "Explain." The intelligence chief opened a datapad. "They attack without warning. They target supply ships and support vessels instead of engaging our main battle fleets. They retreat when they should stand and fight, then attack again when we're not expecting it. Cowards." "That's what we thought at first, sir, but the pattern suggests something else. They're not avoiding battle because they're afraid. They're fighting a completely different type of war." Tralek had ruled the hegemony for 30 years. He had conquered 15 species and had never lost a single major battle. These humans were starting to irritate him. "Send the 4th Fleet to hunt them down. I want these humans found and destroyed." "Sir, The Fourth Fleet has 200 ships. Are you sure that's necessary for one small human force? I'm sure. But Trolloc was making the same mistake that every enemy of humanity had made throughout history. He was thinking like a civilized species instead of thinking like a predator. On Earth, General Tai Hyun was developing something that would change galactic warfare forever. He called it the Deathworld doctrine. Most alien species evolved on peaceful worlds, he explained to the military planning committee. They've never had to fight for survival against their own planet. Dr. Seo-jun, a military psychologist, had been studying human behavior compared to what they knew about alien psychology. Humans are persistence hunters, he said. We evolved to chase prey until it collapses from exhaustion. Other species evolved to avoid danger, not pursue it. What does that mean for military tactics? Asked Admiral Soman, attending the meeting by video link from her flagship. It means humans get more dangerous when they're hurt, not less dangerous. Most aliens become less effective fighters when they take casualties. Humans become more focused and more determined. General Taehyun pulled up a chart showing human performance under stress compared to alien performance. When alien soldiers see their friends die, they want to retreat and save themselves. When human soldiers see their friends die, they want to kill the enemy even more. Are you saying we should use our emotional responses as weapons? I'm saying we already do. We just need to make sure our enemies understand what they're facing. The Deathworld doctrine was sent to every human ship in the galaxy. It included new tactics based on human strengths, pack hunting, persistence attacks, and psychological warfare designed to break alien morale. Commander Nari led the first mission using the new doctrine. She took her special operations team to a hegemony supply depot on an uninhabited moon. Remember, she told her squad, we're not just destroying their supplies, we're sending a message. The hegemony depot was guarded by 50 soldiers and had defensive weapons that could stop a direct assault by a much larger force. But Commander Nari's team didn't attack directly. Instead, they spent 3 days watching the base, learning the guards' routines and finding weaknesses in the defenses. They change guards every 8 hours, reported Sergeant Unbi. Same pattern every day, they're very predictable. What about their sensors? Basic detection systems. They're designed to spot large groups of attackers, not small infiltration. Teams. On the fourth night, Nari's team struck. They moved through the base like ghosts using human abilities that no alien species possessed. Humans could see better in darkness than most aliens. They could move more quietly. They could hold their breath longer and endure pain that would disable alien soldiers. Most importantly, they could coordinate complex operations without constant communication, using hand signals and shared understanding that came from thousands of years of human pack hunting. The hegemony guards never knew what hit them. When the base commander tried to send a distress signal, he found that his communications equipment had been destroyed hours earlier. When he tried to activate the base's defensive weapons, nothing happened. Nari's team had been inside the base for hours, systematically disabling every system that could be used to call for help or fight back. Surrender, and you will not be harmed. Nari announced in the hegemony language that Dr. Mirai had taught all human soldiers. The base commander looked around at his soldiers. Half of them were unconscious. The others were too scared to fight. These humans had appeared out of nowhere and taken control of his base without killing anyone. It was impossible. No species in the galaxy could do such things. We surrender, he said. But Nari's real mission was just beginning. She had captured the base to send a psychological message, not just to destroy supplies. She gathered all the hegemony prisoners in the main supply warehouse, where thousands of tons of food and equipment were stored. This base supplied 27 hegemony outposts, she announced. Without these supplies, those outposts cannot continue their operations. The base commander nodded. It was true. We could destroy everything and leave you here to die, Nari continued. That's what the hegemony would do to us. The alien prisoners looked terrified, but we're not the hegemony. We're humans. Nari activated a recording device. You're going to take a message back to your leaders. You're going to tell them exactly what you saw here tonight. She spent the next hour explaining to the prisoners how her small team had infiltrated and captured their base. She told them about human capabilities they had never imagined. She explained what would happen to any hegemony forces that continued to attack innocent species. Then she released them. "Take one ship and go," she ordered. "Tell your high commander that the humans are coming for him." After the hegemony soldiers left, Sergeant Yunbi asked, "Why did we let them go? They'll warn their fleet about our abilities." "That's exactly why we let them go," Nari replied. "Fear is a weapon too." The psychological impact of the raid spread through hegemony space faster than any human ship could travel. Stories of invisible human soldiers who could appear anywhere and disappear just as quickly began to affect hegemony morale. But the real test of the Deathworld doctrine came when the hegemony Fourth Fleet finally found Admiral Soman's ships. Fleet. Commander Zactel led 200 hegemony ships in the largest military formation his species had ever assembled for a single battle. He was confident that no force in the galaxy could stand against such overwhelming numbers. He found the human fleet near a destroyed hegemony base that had been attacked the day before. 50 human ships were arranged in a defensive formation, apparently waiting for the fight. "This will be easy," Zactel told his officers. 200 ships against 50, we outnumber them 4-1. But Admiral Soman had chosen this battlefield carefully. The destroyed hegemony base was located in an asteroid field that would limit the movement of large fleets while giving advantages to smaller, more maneuverable forces. "All ships, prepare for combat," she ordered. "Remember the doctrine. We don't fight like they expect us to fight." The hegemony fleet approached in standard formation, just like their military manuals required. Zactel planned to surround the human ships and destroy them with concentrated fire from all directions. He had never faced an enemy that refused to follow the rules of civilized warfare. When the battle began, the human ships did something that no hegemony commander had ever seen before. Instead of staying in formation and trading shots, they scattered in every direction. "What are they doing?" Zactel asked his tactical officer. "I don't know, sir. This isn't in any of our battle manuals." Human ships attacked in small groups, hitting different parts of the hegemony formation before disappearing behind asteroids. They used the battlefield terrain like hunters stalking prey. Captain Sunwoo led a squadron of destroyers in a coordinated attack on the hegemony fleet's command ships. His ships moved in patterns that confused alien sensors and made it impossible for the enemy to predict where the next attack would come from. "Target their communications arrays," he ordered. "Cut them off from their fleet." Within minutes, the hegemony fleet began to lose coordination. Ship commanders couldn't communicate with each other, or with Fleet Commander Zactel. Commander Jisoo led another attack group that targeted the hegemony supply ships hidden behind their battle line. In conventional galactic warfare, supply ships were never attacked directly. It was considered dishonorable. But humans didn't care about alien concepts of honor. "Destroy their ammunition carriers first," Jisoo ordered. "Without fresh supplies, their big guns won't matter." The psychological impact was immediate. Hegemony crews had never been in a battle where their own ships were primary targets. They had always assumed that support vessels would be safe during fleet combat. But the most devastating part of the human attack came when hegemony ships started taking casualties. 6 months after the Battle of Kepler Nebula, the galaxy looked completely different. The mighty hegemony empire that had ruled 200 star systems was falling apart like a broken machine. Admiral Soman stood on the bridge of the Indomitable, watching as human ships approached the former hegemony capital world. But they weren't coming as conquerors. They were coming as liberators. "Admiral, we're receiving surrender signals from the Planetary Defense Force," reported communications. "Officer Wusung, accept their surrender, but tell them we're not here to take control of their world. We're here to free their slaves." The collapse of hegemony military power had created chaos throughout their territory. On some worlds, former slaves were rebelling against their masters. On others, different alien species were fighting each other for control. The galaxy needed someone to restore order. That someone turned out to be humanity. Diplomatic coordinator Inhai had been traveling between liberated worlds for months, trying to establish some kind of peaceful government to replace the hegemony. The ancient problem, she explained to Admiral Somin during their weekly planning meeting, is that most alien species don't understand human concepts like individual rights and representative government. What do you mean? For 3 centuries, every species in this region has been either rulers or slaves. They don't have any experience with equality or democracy. Dr. Mirai, who had become humanity's chief alien cultural expert, agreed with Inhe's assessment. Most of these species evolved in societies with strict social hierarchies, she explained. They're used to having some people give orders and other people follow orders. The idea that everyone should have equal rights is completely foreign to them. So what do? We teach them, Admiral Somin said simply. The same way humans learned democracy and individual rights, through experience and example. The first Galactic Assembly was held on the rebuilt Volani homeworld. Representatives from over 50 species gathered to discuss the future of their region of space. Commander Kalani Vor, who had been elected as the new leader of the Volani, served as the meeting's host. 6 months ago, she said in her opening speech, my people were facing extinction. Today we are free because humans answered our call for help. Now we must decide what kind of galaxy we want to build together. The assembly was unlike anything that had ever happened in galactic history. Instead of one species dictating terms to everyone else, all species had equal representation and equal voices. But it wasn't easy. Cultural anthropologist Seung-min had been studying the psychological effects of the hegemony's collapse on different alien species. What he found was troubling. Many species are experiencing what I call evolutionary inferiority complex, he reported to the human leadership team. They're comparing themselves to humans and concluding that they're naturally weaker. Is that true? Admiral Somin asked. In some ways, yes. Most alien species evolved on worlds that were much easier to survive on than Earth. They never developed the physical and mental toughness that humans have. But that doesn't make them inferior. No, it doesn't. But they don't see it that way. Some species are becoming overly dependent on human protection. Others are becoming resentful of human superiority. Admiral Somin realized that winning the war against the hegemony had been the easy part. Building a lasting peace would be much more difficult. The solution came from an unexpected source. Ambassador Hyung-soo was meeting with representatives from a species called the Cathani when one of them asked a question that changed everything. Why did you humans fight so hard to save people you had never met? Ambassador Hyung-soo thought about how to explain human nature to an alien species. Because we understand what it's like to struggle for survival, he said finally. Earth taught us that all life is precious and worth protecting. But you could have stayed hidden and safe. Why risk your lives for strangers? Because hiding and staying safe isn't really living. It's just existing. The Cathani representative was quiet for a long moment. Then he said something that would become the foundation of the new galactic order. You're not trying to rule us, you're trying to teach us how to rule ourselves. That conversation led to the creation of the Galactic Defense Coalition, a voluntary alliance based on principles that humans had developed over thousands of years of civilization. The coalition's charter was simple. Every species had the right to freedom and self-determination. No species could attack or enslave another. All members would work together to protect each other from external threats. But the most important part of the charter was the defense protocol. If any member species is attacked, Admiral Somin explained to the Galactic Assembly, all other members will come to their defense. No species will ever again face extinction alone. The vote to approve the charter was unanimous. However, not every problem could be solved by treaties and good intentions. Some former hegemony worlds were too damaged by centuries of oppression to govern themselves effectively. Other species had been enslaved for so long that they didn't know how to be free. Captain Sunwoo found himself governing a world where 3 different species had been kept as slaves by their hegemony masters. When the human fleet liberated the Io planet, the former slaves started fighting each other instead of working together. They don't trust each other, he reported to Admiral Somin. Each species thinks the others will try to enslave them if given the chance. What's your recommendation, human peacekeepers? At least until they learn to trust each other. This became the pattern throughout former hegemony space. Human ships and soldiers remained on liberated worlds, not as occupying forces but as neutral peacekeepers who could protect everyone from everyone else. It wasn't easy work. Marine Sergeant Yunbi led a peacekeeping unit on a world where former slave species were trying to take revenge on their former masters. "I understand your anger," she told a group of rebels who wanted to execute every member of the former ruling class. "But revenge won't build a better future." "They enslaved our people for generations," the rebel leader replied. "They deserve to die." "Maybe they do," Yunbi admitted. "But if you kill them, you become killers. Is that the kind of people you want to be?" It took months of patient work, but eventually the different species on the planet learned to work together instead of fighting each other. Similar scenes played out on dozens of worlds as human peacekeepers helped former enemies become neighbors and eventually friends. The success of the peacekeeping missions led to requests for help from other parts of the galaxy. Dr. Mirai was working in her language lab when she received a message that would change everything, again. The message came from a galaxy far beyond the former hegemony territory. It was in a completely unknown alien language, but the tone was familiar. Fear, desperation, hope. "Admiral," she called Soman on the communication system. "I think you need to hear this." Admiral Soman listened to the alien transmission with growing concern. "Can you translate it?" "I'm working on it." "But Admiral, this isn't coming from our galaxy. This is from somewhere much farther away." 3 days later, Dr. Murray had deciphered enough of the message to understand its meaning. "They call themselves the Zethkar," she reported. "They're under attack by something called the Dark Fleet. They're asking for help from the legendary humans who defeated the hegemony." Admiral Soman felt a familiar weight settling on her shoulders. The hegemony had been defeated, but there were other predators in the universe. How far away are they? At least 6 months' travel even with our fastest ships. And how did they hear about us? Trade networks, apparently. News of our victory over the hegemony has spread to other galaxies. Admiral Soman looked out at the stars, thinking about the implications. Humanity had revealed itself to one small part of the universe and had become the protector of dozens of species in this region. Now other parts of the universe were calling for help. "Contact Earth Command," she ordered. "Tell them we need to discuss expanding the fleet." "Are we really going to help aliens in other galaxies?" Dr. Mirai asked. Admiral Somin thought about the question. 6 months ago, she had been a simple fleet commander protecting human space. Now she was responsible for the freedom of billions of beings across multiple star systems. "Dr. Mirai, you were the person who first decoded the Volani distress call. If you hadn't done that work, none of this would have happened." "I know. Do you regret it?" Dr. Mirai thought about everything that had happened since that day. The battles, the casualties, the responsibility of protecting so many different species. "No," she said finally. "I don't regret it. Neither do I. And I don't think we can ignore calls for help just because they come from far away." The final scene of this chapter in human history took place at the Galactic Assembly 1 year after the defeat of the hegemony. Admiral Soman stood before representatives of over 100 species, preparing to make an announcement that would define humanity's role in the universe. "Friends and allies," she began, "we have received distress calls from other parts of the universe. Species in distant galaxies are asking for our help against their own versions of the hegemony." The assembly hall was completely quiet. You might think that these distant problems are not our concern. You might argue that we should focus on our own region of space and let other galaxies solve their own. High Commander Tralek stood before the greatest military assembly in hegemony history. 500 ships filled the space around the capital world, representing every major fleet in the Empire. "These humans have become a serious threat," he announced to his fleet commanders. "They have destroyed over 300 of our ships in the past 2 months. This ends now." The Grand Armada was the largest military force ever assembled in galactic history. 500 ships, including the mighty Dominator-class battleships that had conquered dozens of worlds. "We will find their home system and destroy it completely," Tralek continued. No species that challenges the hegemony can be allowed to survive. Fleet Admiral Vorkesh, Trollocs' most trusted commander, raised his hand. Sir, our intelligence suggests that humans have only 50 or 60 ships. Why do we need such a large force? Because they fight like demons, Trolloc replied. They use tactics that violate every principle of civilized warfare. They attack when they should retreat. They keep fighting when they should surrender. They get stronger when they should get weaker. The assembled commanders murmured among themselves. Most had heard stories about human tactics, but few had faced them directly. The Grand Armada will hunt down every human ship in the galaxy, Trolloc declared. We will show the universe what happens to species that dare to oppose the hegemony. But Trolloc made a critical mistake. He assumed that the 50 human ships he had been fighting were the entire human military force. He had no idea that over 2,000 human warships were hidden throughout the galaxy, waiting for the right moment to reveal themselves. Admiral Soman received intelligence reports about the Grand Armada from human spy networks that had been watching hegemony movements. 500 ships, she said to her senior staff aboard the Indomitable. They're bringing everything they have. Admiral, we only have 48 ships left in our task force, Captain Sunwoo pointed out. Even with reinforcements from Earth, we'll be outnumbered 10-1. Strategic AI Coordinator Jae-hyun had been analyzing hegemony fleet movements for weeks, looking for patterns and weaknesses. I think I found something, he announced. The hegemony has never fought a battle where they expected to take heavy casualties. What do you mean? Admiral Soman asked. Their entire military doctrine is based on overwhelming force. They win by having more ships than the enemy, not by being better fighters. But that means their crews aren't prepared for battles where they might actually lose. Dr. Seojun, the military psychologist, nodded in agreement. Human military training assumes that every battle will be difficult and costly. Alien training assumes that battles will be easy wins. So you're saying their morale will break if we can inflict serious casualties? I'm saying it might. But we would need to hurt them badly and quickly, before their numerical advantage becomes decisive. Admiral Soman studied the tactical displays showing the approaching hegemony fleet. 500 ships against fewer than 50. The mathematics were impossible, unless they changed the mathematics. Contact Fleet Admiral Heejin at the hidden base in the Kepler Nebula, she ordered. Tell her it's time to reveal the reserve fleet. For the first time since the war began, human reinforcements would join the battle. But even with help, the odds would still be heavily against them. The Kepler Nebula was a dangerous region of space filled with radiation and gravitational anomalies that made it nearly impossible to navigate safely. Most alien species avoided the area completely, but humans had built a secret base deep inside the nebula, using technology that could operate in conditions that would kill most alien crews. Fleet Admiral Hyejin commanded over 200 ships that had been hidden in the nebula for years, waiting for orders to join the war. All ships prepare for combat operations, she announced. We're going to show the hegemony why humans chose to hide in places they were afraid to look. Captain Jian led the Nebula fleet's fighter squadrons. She had been training in the dangerous conditions inside Kepler for 3 years, learning to fly in radiation levels and gravitational fields that would destroy alien fighters. Listen up, she told her pilots. The enemy fleet is coming to us. They think they're hunting a wounded animal. We're going to show them they're walking into a trap. The Grand Armada approached the Kepler Nebula in perfect formation, exactly as hegemony military manuals required. High Commander Trolloc was confident that his overwhelming numbers would crush the human resistance once and for all. Sir, our sensors are having difficulty operating in this nebula, reported his tactical officer. That's why we brought 500 ships, Trolloc replied. Even if we can't see clearly, we have enough firepower to destroy anything in this region. He had no idea that human ships had been designed specifically to operate in conditions like this. The battle began when Admiral Soman's task force appeared on the edge of the nebula, apparently trying to escape from the approaching hegemony fleet. There they are, Trolloc announced. All ships, attack formation, surround them, and destroy them. But as the Grand Armada moved into the nebula, The radiation began to interfere with their sensors and communication systems. Ships that had operated perfectly in normal space started having equipment failures. "Sir, we're losing contact with the outer squadrons," his communications officer reported. "Keep moving. They can't hide from 500 ships." That's when the trap was sprung. Fleet Admiral Heejin's ships attacked from every direction at once, appearing out of the nebula's radiation clouds like ghosts. The hegemony had expected to find 50 human ships. Instead, they found themselves facing over 200. "Impossible," Tralek whispered. "Where did they all come from?" Captain Sunwoo led his squadron in a coordinated attack on the hegemony command ships, using the nebula's gravitational fields to accelerate his vessels to incredible speeds. "Target their flagship," he ordered. "Cut off the head and the body. Dies." But the most devastating attack came from Captain Jeon's fighter squadrons. Human pilots could operate in the nebula's dangerous conditions, while alien pilots struggled just to keep their ships functioning. "All fighters, attack pattern, Delta," she commanded. "Use the radiation clouds as cover." Human fighters streaked through the nebula like deadly shadows, appearing just long enough to fire their weapons before disappearing again. Alien fighters tried to follow them, but crashed into gravitational anomalies or suffered radiation exposure that incapacitated their pilots. The psychological impact was immediate and devastating. Hegemony crews had never been in a battle where they couldn't see their enemies clearly or communicate with their own fleet. Panic spread through the Grand Armada as ship after ship fell to attacks they couldn't predict or prevent. Engineering. Chief Minsu aboard the battleship Retribution watched as his ship took heavy damage from hegemony fire. "Sir, we've lost main power and half our weapon systems," he reported to his captain. "Can we restore power?" "Not enough to continue fighting effectively." Captain Donghyun looked at the tactical display. The Retribution was surrounded by enemy ships and taking fire from multiple directions. In any other military force in the galaxy, this would be the moment to surrender or retreat. But this was a human crew. "Set a collision course for that hegemony battleship," Captain Donghyun ordered. "Sir? You heard me. If we can't fight them, we'll ram them." The idea of using a ship as a weapon was completely alien to galactic military thinking. In civilized warfare, ships retreated when they were too damaged to fight effectively. But humans weren't civilized in the way that aliens understood the term. The Retribution accelerated toward the hegemony battleship Eternal Victory, using its damaged engines to build up as much speed as possible. The hegemony crew watched in horror as the human ship approached on what was clearly a suicide course. "They're going to ram us," the tactical officer reported. "Impossible. No species would sacrifice an entire ship just to destroy one enemy vessel." "Tell that to the humans, sir." The collision destroyed both ships instantly, but the psychological impact on the hegemony fleet was enormous. These humans would rather die than lose. Similar scenes played out across the battlefield as human crews demonstrated a level of determination that alien psychology couldn't comprehend. When Captain Jae-hyun's destroyer was disabled by enemy fire, his crew refused to abandon ship. Instead, they overloaded their reactor and used the explosion to destroy 3 nearby hegemony vessels. When Commander Yuna's cruiser ran out of ammunition, her crew rammed an enemy supply ship, causing a chain reaction that destroyed an entire hegemony squadron. High Commander Tralek watched his Grand Armada disintegrate around him. Ships that should have been easy victories were turning into disasters. Human crews kept fighting even when their ships were destroyed. "Sir, we've lost over half our fleet," his tactical officer reported. "Recommend immediate retreat." Tralek looked at the battle display. The mathematical impossibility of the situation was clear. His 500 ships had been reduced to fewer than 200, while the human fleet was still fighting effectively. "How many human ships have we destroyed?" "Approximately 60, sir." Tralek felt sick. His overwhelming numerical advantage had been turned into a devastating defeat. For the first time in hegemony history, he gave the order to retreat from a battle. All remaining ships fall back to the capital system. Emergency.